Good morning and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on cybersecurity. So this is our final webinar in our Master's Edge series. And today we're focused on everything that's cybersecurity based. So today we have the pleasure of Professor Agar Moldovan, who is our resident cybersecurity expert, and he's going to talk to us about our MSc in cybersecurity, the program, the details of that program, and I suppose what the impact of cybersecurity, both from an academic perspective and equally from, I suppose, a professional and operational perspective as you as a student move through the program and then progress onto your careers after graduation. So look, I suppose a couple of housekeeping issues. If anyone has any questions during the session, please put your question into the Q&A function and we will either address it at the end or during the session. Please also make sure you have your mics muted as well, just so that there's no background noise or interruption during the presentation. And without further ado, I'm going to pass across to Professor Moldovan, who will take you through everything that is cybersecurity. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Arghid Nicolae Moldovan, and I'm the program director, one of the program directors for MSc in cybersecurity here at National College of Ireland. I'm mainly program director for the full-time students. This program, it's quite established at the moment. So I want to talk to you today about why study cybersecurity. I will give you an overview of the MSc in cybersecurity at National College of Ireland, and then I will be very happy to take any questions from you. Rogers, I'm trying to remove this, but I think you can see properly the slides, right? Okay, so why study cybersecurity? Cybersecurity, as everyone knows, it's an essential need for a modern society. Over the years, there was an increasing emphasis on security by design. If traditionally, a lot of the development of technologies and applications primarily focused on functionalities for the users, it became very clear that that security needs to be addressed at the very early stages of development, because otherwise a lot of problems have arisen, like in terms of security attacks and phishing attacks and social engineering. There is also an increasing emphasis on data protection, privacy, and regulation. The European Union, which Ireland is part of, for example, it's one of the leaders in terms of regulations there worldwide. They have introduced many regulations over the years. Some of them are covering the area of cybersecurity and data protection and privacy, starting with the GDPR back in 2018. But they later also added additional regulations that apply to companies like NIS2, and also other regulations that apply, for example, to the AI, which became very important in all the areas of technology recently, including cybersecurity. So in cybersecurity itself, also there is an increasing AI integration that leads to both new risks and opportunities. Here in the courses at National College of Ireland, we have also increased the use of AI both in the kind of the teaching and the modules. Students got accustomed, even outside of the college, with the broad use of the AI tools, and then they can try translate some of that knowledge also in their education. So why study cybersecurity? This area provides very rewarding careers. So basically, your jobs have real impact, and it's one of the fastest growing area when compared to other technology jobs. The World Economic Forum, for example, has rated it as one of the fastest growing areas, and also according to dark reading, for example, it outperformed other sectors even during the economic recession. The labor market encounters a severe workforce shortage, and according to some industry companies, for example, 85% of the global security workforce increase is needed in order to meet the demand. And ISC2, which is one provider of cybersecurity certifications, for example, they estimated that almost 5 million unfilled jobs were globally back in 2024. And according to Allied Market Research, for example, the global cybersecurity market is expected to grow in size from 219 billion in 2023 up to 558 billion by 2033, over a 10-year duration. So in terms of Ireland, Ireland has an established cybersecurity ecosystem. Cyber Ireland, it's an organization here that represents many companies, are members of them, educational institutions, government agencies. NCI, for example, it's also an academic member of the Cyber Ireland, and they do a lot of events. They do kind of engagements, research conference, as well as a national cybersecurity conference. They also regularly look at the market. And according to them, there are over 500 companies in Ireland that employ staff in internal cybersecurity operations or offer cybersecurity products or services to the market. And they expect the sector to grow at a 10% rate per year, from approximately 7,000 to over 17,000 employees between 2022 and 2030. Another recruiting company called Cybershark, they are doing annually these surveys on the salary and employment market in the cybersecurity area. And according to them, for example, the latest report from 2025, the cybersecurity area has good earning potential, but of course it depends a lot on the experience and role. So for example, in Dublin, the survey showed that with 3 years of experience, the salaries are between 43,000 and 57,000. With 6 years of experience, they are about 60 to 72,000, and with over 7 years of experience, for example, you can get up to 100,000 euros per year. Now, why study the cybersecurity at National College of Ireland? So our program, it's a well-recognized course. It was shortlisted for the Grad Ireland Higher Education Awards on 2 occasions. Originally, like other MSc programs here, we aim to create programs meet the needs of the industry with participation of experts from different companies. We are updating the programs every 5 years. So it was first creating back in 2016. It went through revalidation and update the last time in 2023. And next year we plan to update it again and to go through this 5-year revalidation process. It was also the first MSc program at NCI and also in Ireland to introduce a research-oriented internship module. Because of the initial success in the MSc in cybersecurity, that was expanded to other MSc programs at NCI. Now the modules are delivered by teams of experienced research active PhD academics. So we are several kind of permanent staff that work in not only cybersecurity but also data science and AI, teaching on the program. And then there are also associate lecturers that have certifications and industry experience. Their full-time job, for example, are in the industry, but then they deliver some courses, and also they do supervision for the practicum and internship modules for the students. Now, the careers office, they are conducting annual student surveys with the graduates, and these are just some examples of roles. For example, from past years, different roles were secured by our graduates, including cybersecurity consultants, analysts, engineers. A lot of the roles are on investigation, security operations, forensics, SOC analyst, for example. Other roles include cloud engineer, like with AWS or other companies, technical support engineer, infosec analysts, a big variety of roles, and these are only some examples from some of the years there. Now, the main objectives of the program. So the program is technical and practical. The aim is to be embedded with the industry, and again, as we go through the validation process, part of the process is to engage with industry representatives and to get their feedback, for example, on what are the recent trends and technologies, for example, that the industry look at. And we try to take that feedback when we revalidate and update the programs, which can be reflected, for example, in new modules being introduced or new topics. Now, because the industry and technologies, they tend to move quite fast. The important focus of the programs is on core skills and competencies that are transferable and applicable across roles, and also because our programs are updated every 5 years, like big updates. For example, in modules like network security and penetration testing, a lot of the emphasis is put on the methodology, like penetration testing methodologies, on generic skills that can be applied in different penetration testing engagements, and then the within that methodology, it's to apply different skills and different technologies and different tools to achieve the goals, okay, which can change from one engagement to another, and graduates always need to learn and to train, including on the jobs, for example. Another aim of the program is to develop expertise of core cybersecurity topics, and the emphasis is on the development of technical and research skills in the cybersecurity area through analysis, investigation, requirements elicitation, problem solving, and teamwork. We also look at studying appropriate technologies and techniques necessary for the cultivation of advanced investigative skills. This is the program structure for the full-time mode. So international students can only study in full-time, where the delivery is based on campus. Now, again, the program was last revalidated and the structure was updated back in 2023. Next year, we will start again the revalidation process. At the moment, so here with green are represented core modules. So the program full-time duration, it's over 3 semesters, 1 year, and each semester has 30 credits. In semester 1 and semester 2, there are 25 credits modules that are core. These include network security and penetration testing, security fundamentals, data governance, ethics, and sustainability. While in semester 2, there are cloud architectures and security, cryptography and blockchain, and AI and machine learning in cybersecurity. Then there are two elective paths. So basically, represented with blue here, it's the secure development elective path that consists of the secure web development module in semester 1 and the secure application development in semester 2. And then the investigation elective path that consists of forensics and e-discovery and the malware analysis. An important note, for example, is that students that elect to do the secure web development can switch to the other path and do malware analysis in semester 2, but the students that do forensics and e-discovery cannot switch to the secure application development. So to give you again an example of how do we consider the roles that the students, graduates have secured, as well as feedback from the industry panel. In the previous version of the program, for example, the secure development modules were mandatory, and then they were changed to electives. And one of the main rationale there was that a lot of the cybersecurity roles that graduates take do not involve a lot of programming. They may involve some scripting, they may involve a little bit of programming, but they are not necessarily secure development or secure programming roles. And at the last revalidation, we decided to keep them because there are very important roles that can be useful, for example, to keep these modules. But we changed them into an elective path rather than keeping them as core modules. And that also opened opportunities, for example, for more applicants that perhaps came from an engineering background where they didn't study a lot of programming to come and do the program and perhaps select the investigative elective. Okay. Now, some of these are all taught modules, but some of them are more practical, some of them are more theoretical. So, for example, in semester 1, network security and pen testing, and the electives modules like secure web development and forensics are more practical modules, while the security fundamentals and data governance, ethics, and sustainability, they are more theoretical modules. While in semester 2, again, cloud architecture and security, AI, ML in cyber, and the electives, they have a bigger practical element. Cryptography and blockchain also has practical elements, but due to the nature of cryptography, it's also more exercise-based and question-based. Now these modules, again, all of them have both lectures and laboratories or tutorials. And the typical kind of modules for 10 credits, they have 2 hours lecture and 2 hour labs, while for 5 credits, they have a 2 hour lecture and 1 hour lab. During semester 2, students also start to do the practicum internship module. So this takes place over 6 months, but in the first semester, students are kind of having more traditional regular classes with the lecturer. They learn about research, conducting research, such as, for example, to identify and formulate a research question, to do a literature review, and to write a proposal. And that is valued at 5 credits during the semester 2 and 10% of the overall grade. And then the students in semester 3, they have one taught module for 5 credits, business resilience and incident management. And they primarily focus on completing their practicum and internship. And for this part 2, The students can either continue on the proposal that they have written for the part one, in which case they will do the practical module, or if they are successful and secure an internship with the company, they will switch to do an internship, whereby the model is that the students work 4 days per week with the company, Mondays to Thursdays, and then on Fridays they attend the BREAM classes, supervision meetings, and they work on adding the research elements to their research projects. Because even if you do an internship with an industry company, you still need to build a research project and artifact on part of the work that you do with the company. And typically this practicum part or internship part 2 takes place over 3 months or 12 weeks for full-time students. And then only the internship students, they receive 3 additional weeks to complete their portfolio. That it's a research paper style report, an artifact, and the configuration manual. So they get this additional time because they had to change the topic from the practicum proposal, while the students that continue to do the practicum, they have an earlier deadline, so they do not receive those additional 3 weeks. This is the part-time structure. Now again, this may not apply to most of you unless you are domestic students. So the domestic students can also study in part-time. For part-time, we have the taught modules, the first 3 semesters that consist of the taught modules. They are grouped into 20 credits per semester, and students can complete and exit with a postgraduate diploma in cybersecurity. That it's still a level 9 program, but doesn't have the research component. And then the part-time students do the practicum or internship over 6 months in what we call a fourth semester, but that takes place over 6 months. So in terms of the learning environment, again, the delivery mode depends on the mode of study. So for full-time students is on campus, so traditional classes with lecturers in the room. There is some attendance monitoring for full-time students there, but the attendance is not factored into the grades. Then for part-time students, we are using an online directed e-learning delivery model. The primary platforms that are used for online learning and teaching. So Moodle is the kind of the central learning management system where the lecturers share materials, assessments, and they put the submission links. Microsoft Teams is used for online synchronous classes, for meetings. Supervision meetings, for example, for the practicum part 2, students are assigned to supervisors, and the supervision meetings, over the past few years, they continue to take place online because we shifted to online meetings and classes during the pandemic. Coming out of it, we continued with online supervision meetings for full-time students also, but the rest of the classes are on campus. There are different modules that different modules may use additional online platforms. So for example, in the network security and penetration testing module, there are students have an assessment where they are supposed to research and to select systems and networks that are vulnerable from different platforms. They work in group to conduct penetration testing activities on them. And students have the options, for example, to choose systems from any platform like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, Vulnhub. For the cloud architecture and security module, students have a project and they use AWS Academy platform there, which gives access to over 100 services. These are bring your own device courses, so students need to have a laptop with at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, modern 64-bit CPU, and running typically Windows. Most of the students will have Windows laptop but also some students have macOS laptops or Linux laptops. The typical assessment strategy for the taught modules consists of 2 assessments. So earlier in the semester, the students will typically have 1 continuous assessment, and then towards the end of the semester, they have a terminal assessment. Now the CA can be an in-class test, or can be a written essay, like a homework, or can be an individual or a group project. The terminal assessments can be either a written on-campus examination, an individual project, or for example, a research assessment and report. At NCI, we provide a lot of supports for the students. So we have an award-winning careers office in order to help students, for example, with preparing for applying for internships and also graduate roles. There are timetable career classes, CV and LinkedIn clinics, mock interview sessions prior to the interviews. There are employer internship brochures, events. Then we have an award-winning library that provides online help center guides, access to online databases, like for example, IEEE Explore, ACM, Elsevier, Springer. This is very important because again, 30 credits of the program consist of a research kind of project, and as part of doing the proposal as well as the final research paper style report, you'll have to conduct literature reviews to analyze past research papers, and then building on them to do your methodology and evaluation. Then they also provide academic writing and referencing, booking study spaces. Then we have the student services provide counseling and wellness, disability support and student health. The IT services, for example, they have a help center. They provide many how-to video guides, and then they also give us access to cloud services, such as, for example, the AWS Academy to use. These are just some examples of technologies. Now, again, the specific technologies may be used in different modules there. If you're interested to go for the secure development elective path, it's important to have programming experience. So any applicant, if they check the entry requirements, they specify that you need to have some programming knowledge or experience. Now again, that it's especially important if you plan to select the secure development elective path. The first module will focus on web development security. So you'll use web technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, and then the second module, the secure application development, is primarily focused on languages like Java and C programming. In modules like AI, ML, and cybersecurity, that one is primarily focused on Python. As we know, Python became the most popular programming language, in part because of its widely use and adoption in all things that have to do basically with machine learning, data analytics, and AI, deep learning. So Python is primarily used in AI/ML in cybersecurity, but you may also get some exposure to it through other modules. Like for example, for network security and pen testing, we primarily focus on using tools and scripts like bash scripts, but you may also come across the use of Python scripts for particular tasks. Then again, AWS Academy, it's used for the cloud architecture and security module. Then you may use different distributions like Cybersecurity Linux distributions. Kali is one example, but again, students are free to select if they have some experience with Kali already. They are encouraged, for example, to look at alternative distributions like Parrot Security. Then there are distributions for forensics like Kane. These Linux distributions are very handy because they come with a big range or big suite of tools for penetration testing, digital forensic activities. Some examples include Nmap, AirCrackNG, for example, for wireless penetration testing, Metasploit for exploitation, then for web penetration testing and vulnerability assessment, things like WASP, Z, attack proxy, the Borb suite. For tools like packet analyzers, for example, Wireshark and T-Shark, they are used extensively for network security and pen testing, but also they are used for network forensics. In network forensics, you may look at different operating systems. For example, the forensics and e-discovery module also covers mobile forensics, and one of the assessments it's for students to select a mobile application and to conduct a forensic investigation into their application of choice. For malware analysis, where again it's a practical module, students will use a variety of tools to analyze malware, both including tools installed in a secure virtual machine sandbox, but online tools, like for example, VirusTotal or hybrid analysis, where malware samples can be submitted for analysis in an online sandboxed and secure environment. So these are just some examples of tools. Again, there are many other tools that can be used in different modules. And again, the focus is on core skills, knowledge and competencies, because the tools may change. And for example, in penetration testing, there are now an increasing use of AI tools, and there are tools like Pentest GPT, for example. It's a recent penetration testing framework that was proposed by research work, that it's using LLMs as backend. Like for example, you can use different backends, but originally the authors used the OpenAI GPT, but other engines like Mistral can be used, for example, with it, adapted to be used, and newer models. And the idea is that this penetration pen test GPT framework will act as a support for scaffolding and to give you guidance during the penetration testing activities. So that is just one example of penetration testing framework that has integrated LLMs in a particular field of cybersecurity and application domain. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to take any questions if you have.
Thanks very much for a really interesting presentation on cybersecurity. And the impact of what the program offers to candidates who undertake the program of study. I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, that I'd like to ask. The first one, and I suppose it's one that we tend to get from a lot of candidates, is around module assessment. So particularly for the MS in cybersecurity, how are candidates assessed at a module level? Is it through written exams, presentations, programming tests, etc.? So maybe you can just talk us through what the general process is.
So again, the general kind of assessment strategy for our module is to only have 2 assessments per module. There are a few exceptions. For example, the AI/ML in cybersecurity module only has one project for 100%. It's an individual project. Students have an earlier submission. They have to submit a proposal, but that it's only for formative feedback. It's not graded. And then the final project submission is graded for 100%. Again, the particular, what we tried through this assessment strategy is to reduce over assessment and the pressure on the students, because it's manageable and it's very easy, for example, starting from around week 5 to only have one deadline per week, with some gaps, and the students can better manage the assessments. We don't have a lot of we do not have a lot of exams and in-class tests. There are a few exceptions there, for example, for cryptography and blockchain. There is an in-class test and a written on-campus exam for full-time students, but most modules, they primarily focus on using assessments and projects. Some of them, again, they involve practical work being conducted by the students, and then a report writing element, and then they have to submit a report that is being evaluated. And some of these assessments are group based, some of them are individual. So for example, for network security and penetration testing, there are 2 assessments. The first one is a group based. It's practical. Every student needs to select a vulnerable system that it's recent, and then they have to do the practical work, and together as a group to write a report that is submitted for grading. And then there is also an element of presentation. So there are in-class presentations where every group needs to present their work. The second assessment, it's an individual assessment, and the students need to define a realistic network topology. No practical work, because it wouldn't really be feasible to define that complex topology from a practical work, but the emphasis is put on the kind of the closer connection to the real world, a more complex network, and then the research of different attack vectors that can be used by attackers and different mitigation strategies that can be used by defenders to protect that network. And it's a following that research, they need to write a report and to submit it for assessment. So again, primarily we have most of the assessments are individual. Some of them are group-based, because we also want the students to develop transferable skills like collaboration and communication. And there are in some of these projects, the students either have to do a live presentation or a video presentation. So my understanding is that some of the modules like AI/ML and cybersecurity to do presentation rather than a live presentation, because the project is individual and doing live presentations, it will take a lot of time. But for network security and penetration testing, because it's group work, it's manageable to have those in-class presentations.
Perfect. That is a very comprehensive answer and response to that question. So look, thank you very much. I've one other final question for you, and I think it's one again that students are quite interested in. It's that final semester around the practicum stroke the internship. So I suppose students always wonder, okay, if I do I have to get an internship? If I don't get an internship, what are my options? And while I'm doing that internship, do I then also have to do a research paper as well to complement that internship piece that I'm doing?
Thank you, Owen. So the modules are elective. In what sense they are elective? Basically, if the students cannot secure an internship, they will automatically do the practicum, where they will continue to do the research that they have proposed in the part 1 for the proposal. Because the internships are through companies, they are competitive. So basically it's like any job. So students need to apply to identify them. They need to apply for them, they need to be selected for interviews, they need to go through interview process, and then it's up to the company to offer that position. So because of that, like the wide majority of the students will do the practicum, and then typically a smaller number of students will do the internship. And then the students that do the internship, they are still assessed based on the same marking rubric as the students that do the practicum, which means that on the main part of the work that they do with the company, they will have to build a research project. So there are different examples there depending on what the students do with the company. But for example, we had students in the past that worked with the company where they looked at the security of wireless communications for autonomous vehicles. And then the idea was that, yes, you do the work, the tasks that the company assigned to you, but then you take that work and on top of it, you add research elements such as a research question, a literature review, and then you have to write a methodology and to do an evaluation. Okay, so the evaluation can be through different means. So a typical kind of approach for students that did the internship, if they worked on more theoretical kind of frameworks, was, for example, to do research surveys, perhaps with employees from the companies, and then to present that analysis of the survey results. Or if they were doing more practical internships, and the evaluation again may have used different metrics depending on what they did. If it was machine learning or if it was something related to wireless communications. And the important thing again is that students will receive the support throughout the process, and in order to help them to build a research project on top of the practical work that they do with the company, they are assigned an academic supervisor and they have weekly supervision meetings. And the supervisor is working together with the academic supervisor is working with the students to help them add those research elements and to convert it into a research project. So, and again, we give some additional time to the students doing the internship in the form of 3 additional weeks at the end. So they have a later deadline for submission.
Perfect. Great details, particularly sort of clarifying for students around the process between the practicum and the internship and all that goes with that internship piece. So what I want to say is thank you very much, Professor, for giving us your time today and for giving us the webinar and the details that you've presented to us. I'd like to thank my colleague Anna in hiding in the background for her help and support. This webinar has been recorded and we will share the link with you over the next couple of days. In addition, I suppose one of the big, areas of interest is also careers. We did a careers webinar 2 weeks ago and we will reshare the link for that with attendees to this webinar today. And that will give you details around our career support team, what they do, how they operate, everything that they do to support you through your time with NCI, whether it's through the Masters in Cybersecurity or any other program, to make sure, that you get the best from the career support team and the opportunities that are available to you in the Irish employment market. So thank you very much for joining our webinar today. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it informative. If you haven't made an application to this Masters in Cybersecurity, I'd strongly encourage you to do so. We get applications turned around in roughly about a week, assuming all relevant documentation is provided. Again, it's a very, very strong program. There's a huge amount of opportunity in this space, and it's only going to grow as the world further develops in that cybersecurity and AI environment. So we're looking forward to receiving your applications. If you do have any queries or questions after this session, please drop us an email. We're at international@nci.ie, and we'll happily answer any of your questions or queries. So without further ado, thank you very much to everybody and have a lovely day/evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.